Every office has its usual rhythm: keyboards clicking, phones ringing, and the quiet hum of fluorescent lights overhead. This office was no different. It was one of those tall buildings where people wore business suits and hurried from one meeting to the next, always busy, always rushing. Among them was Mr. Lewis, the janitor. He worked quietly in the background, pushing his cart through the halls, wiping desks, and emptying trash cans. Most people barely noticed him. But Mr. Lewis wasn't invisible to everyone. Some employees saw him as just the dumb janitor, someone easy to make fun of. It was a harsh label, but it stuck in the office like a bad smell. They laughed behind his back, and sometimes even in front of him. He never said much, just kept working, day after day. Among those who treated him the worst was Sarah. Sarah was young and confident, with a sharp tongue and a quick smile that could turn cruel in an instant. She worked in one of the big departments and liked to act like she was better than everyone else. Sarah had a habit of making jokes at Mr. Lewis's expense, calling him names, pretending he didn't know anything. She even told coworkers he was slow and not the brightest right in his face. Most people in the office didn't say anything when Sarah mocked him. Some just laughed, others looked away. But the tension was always there. Sarah's words cut deep. And though Mr. Lewis stayed calm, the hurt in his eyes was hard to miss. It was a small hidden drama playing out every day under the bright office lights, one that nobody thought would ever change. One ordinary Wednesday, the office buzzed with its usual busy energy. People were focused on their computers, sipping coffee, and chatting quietly during lunch breaks. Sarah had brought her favorite sandwich that day, her secret recipe that she always looked forward to eating. But when lunchtime finally came and she went to the break room, her lunch was gone. Sarah's eyes widened in shock. She looked around the small fridge, checking every shelf, but it wasn't there. Her frustration quickly turned to anger. She slammed the fridge door and muttered under her breath, then stomped out into the main office area, loudly demanding to know who took her lunch. Without thinking twice, Sarah pointed her finger directly at Mr. Lewis, who was just passing by with his cleaning cart. "Hey, dumb janitor, did you steal my lunch? Give it back," she snapped, her voice cutting through the room. The words hung in the air, sharp and cruel. Mr. Lewis stopped but didn't say a word. His face was calm, almost unreadable, like he was used to this kind of treatment. But beneath that stillness, there was something deeper, a quiet strength, a patience that no one in the office noticed. The narrator's voice could almost feel the weight behind his silence, as if he was holding back something important. The office grew quiet. Some coworkers looked away, uncomfortable with the scene. Others, however, smirked or whispered to each other, clearly enjoying Sarah's show. A few even chuckled, joining in on the jokes about the dumb janitor. No one stepped up to defend Mr. Lewis. Sarah kept shouting, her voice rising with every accusation. She called him names, mocking him in front of everyone. "How could you even think about stealing from me? You're just a nobody," she yelled, making sure everyone heard. Still Mr. Lewis said nothing. He only gave Sarah a small calm look that seemed to say, "You don't know the whole story," but Sarah ignored it, too wrapped up in her own anger to notice. The tension in the office was thick, and the day suddenly felt heavier. No one expected what would happen next, and Mr. Lewis's silence was the calm before a storm that no one saw coming. Most people in the office didn't know much about Mr. Lewis. They saw him only as the janitor, the quiet man who cleaned floors and emptied trash. But his story was very different from what anyone imagined. Years ago, Mr. Lewis had a completely different life. He was highly educated, with a degree from a top university. For a long time, he worked in a big corporate job, one of those positions where people wore expensive suits and made important decisions. He was respected and successful. But then life changed. A series of personal hardships hit him hard. Maybe it was his health, or family troubles, or even a betrayal by someone he trusted deeply. Whatever the reason, Mr. Lewis had to leave his career behind. He didn't want to be a janitor, but life didn't offer him many choices. He needed a steady job to support himself and keep his dignity. So he took the janitor's position at this office building. It was humble work, but he did it with pride. Every day he showed up early and stayed late, doing his job carefully and well. Despite what others thought, Mr. Lewis was kind and thoughtful. He noticed the small things that made people's days easier. He fixed a jammed printer without being asked. He quietly replaced a burnt-out light bulb in the meeting room. He smiled gently when someone was having a tough day. His kindness was like a soft light in the busy, cold office. But there was something else beneath his calm. Mr. Lewis was patient, and he wasn't the man people believed him to be. He knew more about the office and the people in it than anyone suspected. Behind his quiet eyes was a secret plan, a reason for his silence that no one could guess. He wasn't angry or bitter about Sarah's accusations. Instead, he waited, watching carefully. He understood that sometimes, the best way to handle cruelty was not to fight it with noise, but with quiet strength. The day would come when everything would change, and when it did, no one would be able to ignore Mr. Lewis anymore. After the lunch incident, things in the office didn't get better for Sarah. In fact, her attitude grew worse. Every day she became more aggressive, not just toward Mr. Lewis, but also toward other co-workers. She snapped at people over small mistakes, rolled her eyes when someone asked a question, and acted like she was the boss of the whole office. It was as if losing her lunch had broken something inside her, making her meaner and more careless. Sarah's arrogance started to cause real problems. She argued with her teammates during meetings, refusing to listen or help when others struggled. Her sharp words made some co-workers avoid her altogether. Even supervisors noticed her bad behavior. One day her manager pulled her aside and warned her to be more professional, but Sarah just shrugged it off and kept acting like she was above everyone else. The biggest mistake came during an important project. Sarah was in charge of submitting a report to a client, but she didn't check her work carefully. The report had errors, big ones, that caused the company to lose an important contract. When her boss asked what happened, Sarah didn't admit her fault. Instead, she blamed the team, the software, even the printer, anything but herself. Her stubbornness made things worse, and the whole office felt the tension growing. Through all this, Mr. Lewis stayed quiet. He kept doing his job without complaint, but no one noticed that he was paying close attention. He watched Sarah's every move and the way she treated people. But then something changed. Mr. Lewis began making small but clever moves behind the scenes. Without anyone realizing it, he quietly helped others fix the problems Sarah had caused. When Sarah missed a deadline, Mr. Lewis stayed late to organize the files she forgot. When someone needed a missing document, he had already found it and put it on their desk. His kindness didn't go unnoticed by a few careful co-workers who started to see there was more to Mr. Lewis than meets the eye. Even more surprising, Mr. Lewis found a way to bring some of Sarah's mistakes to the attention of the higher-ups, not in a harsh way, but with proof and facts they couldn't ignore. Slowly the office began to realize that Sarah's arrogance was causing real harm, and that someone they had all overlooked was quietly helping keep things together. The tension built day by day. People began to wonder who Mr. Lewis really was, and why he stayed silent for so long. There was a feeling in the air, something was about to happen that would change everything. The quiet janitor wasn't just a forgotten man, he had power and influence hidden beneath his calm surface. No one could guess what was coming next, but when the truth finally came out, it would shake the office to its core. Days passed since Sarah's angry outburst about her missing lunch, and still, no one had found it. Rumors spread quietly, but the truth remained a mystery, until the day Sarah discovered something she never expected. It happened during a hectic afternoon, when Sarah was rushing between meetings. She reached into the back of her office desk drawer, and felt something cold. Pulling it out, she saw her own lunchbox, exactly the one she'd claimed was stolen. Somehow, she had forgotten she'd put it there earlier that morning while clearing her bag. The lunch wasn't stolen at all. Sarah had been accusing Mr. Lewis for something she did herself. The realization hit her like a wave. Her face turned pale, and a tight knot formed in her stomach. She had humiliated the kind janitor in front of everyone, shouting cruel words and calling him names, all for nothing. But the day's surprises didn't stop there. Mr. Lewis called a meeting in the break room, inviting everyone, including Sarah. The room filled with curious co-workers, wondering what the quiet janitor wanted to say. Slowly, Mr. Lewis stepped forward. He took off his janitor's cap and revealed something no one expected. He wasn't just a janitor, he was the son of the company's owner, who had chosen to work anonymously to understand the company from the ground up. Or, maybe, he was a former executive who had returned after a long absence, watching the office quietly while people judged him unfairly. Sarah's eyes widened in shock. She felt a cold fear creeping in. All her arrogance, her harsh words, and her false accusations now seemed like a terrible mistake. The room was silent, except for Mr. Lewis's calm voice as he spoke about respect, kindness, and the harm caused by jumping to conclusions. Sarah's boss then stepped in. Because of her behavior and the problems she caused, Sarah would face disciplinary action. She would have to apologize publicly, not just to Mr. Lewis, but to everyone she had hurt with her attitude. It was a humbling moment for her, one that forced her to reflect on how she treated others. But Mr. Lewis didn't seek revenge. Instead, he showed grace. He explained that everyone deserves respect, no matter their role. He hoped Sarah and the whole office could learn that judging people based on appearances or status was wrong. His words carried a quiet power, and the office felt the truth in them. In the days that followed, Sarah changed. She grew quieter, more thoughtful, and started to treat Mr. Lewis and others with kindness. The office atmosphere shifted too. People stopped making jokes at the janitor's expense and began to appreciate the small kindnesses that had always been there. What started as a simple missing lunch became a powerful lesson in humility, respect, and the dangers of arrogance. And for Mr. Lewis, it was a quiet victory, a reminder that sometimes, the strongest power is the one shown through patience and kindness. After everything that happened, the office was never quite the same. The laughter that once followed the dumb janitor jokes slowly faded away. People began to see Mr. Lewis for who he really was, not just a janitor, but a person with kindness, strength, and a quiet wisdom that no one had expected. Mr. Lewis didn't ask for praise or attention. Instead, he continued his work with the same calm and gentle spirit. But now, when he passed by, co-workers nodded with respect, or smiled warmly. They had learned an important lesson: never judge someone by their job or how they look. Everyone carries a story, and everyone deserves kindness. Sarah's change was the most noticeable. Her pride had been humbled, and with it came a new understanding. She started treating others with respect, and thought before she spoke. It wasn't just about avoiding trouble, it was about growing into a better person. This story reminds us all that arrogance can blind us, while humility opens the door to true strength. Sometimes, the people we overlook or judge harshly have the greatest power, not in loud words or titles, but in their patience, kindness, and quiet courage. So next time you see someone who seems less, remember Mr. Lewis, because kindness and respect can change lives, and true strength often hides where you least expect it.